last Sunday about you and your divinity and who you are as a divine creation. And Genesis 1:27 says, so God created men in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, and he created them. So I just want to remind you of what we spoke about you are the divine creation. So God created you in his divine image. Therefore, you are vibrating everything that God is. And so you have the ability, the divine expression of God. I have a student in class for the spiritual healer training that I do. And one of the things we have to learn is how to do affirmative prayer. And in this affirmative prayer, there's the second step is I am. It's affirming everything that God is. And a lot of individuals don't feel comfortable with that step because they don't want to affirm that I am the flower, I am the sky, I'm God, I'm everything that God is. It sounds weird, right? When we start saying, well, I am this, I'm that. It almost sounds like we are kind of selfish. We are all about ourselves. But the truth is that in order for us to have a transformation in our lives, in order for us to open our heart to the creative energy, the infinite potential that we have to affirm I am what God is, because God created it in us in his image. The Holy Bible talks about it. Every holy book talks about it, how God created us in its image. And so if we don't affirm what God is in us, then how can we be a healing presence for others if we don't see the divinity within our own being? Does that make sense? And so this goes back to how we were raised, what our parents say about us, you know, the shut up, the annoying, be quiet, and everything else that they told us, that we're dumb, we're this, we're that. And so we're bad boys, bad girls, so we have this belief so pregnated in us that we are not worthy of God's love, that we're not worthy to be God's creation. And so if we're not worthy to be God's creation, then we're not worthy of anything else. So we go through these cycles of repeating chaos because we don't feel worthy of love. And so we shift that to coming back to remembering that the presence of God lives within every part of our being. This is a daily affirmation that we have to do. We daily have to practice remembering that we are in the presence of Source, that God is our divine expression. And so I am. And so when you're driving or you're going on your walks, look at everything around you and affirm, I am the trees, I am the sky, I am the flowers. Make it a song. Make it a mantra that you do. But you have to come back to realizing that you are the expression of God on earth. You are. There's no hiding about it, because if you try to run from this truth, you're only bringing more chaos within you. And so we have the co-creating energy of Source to bring into our experience that which our heart longs for. We have this desire within us. We have this desire to do something, and that is our purpose. And everything happens exactly how it needs to happen to bring us to that moment. Chaos happens, pain happens. And I love your story, Sheila, like how you healed yourself and how, yeah, because to me that's an expression how God led you through what you went through in your physical body to search. And now you're helping a lot of individuals with their own physical body, including me, my monthly cycles and things like that. So that is spirit flowing through you. That is the creative energy of Source that is expressing itself through all of us. So each one of us has that within us. That's co-creating, that's leading us, that's pushing us, and that push doesn't feel good. It feels like, the tapping. I said that when I was going through my transformation and I was going through my awakening, because that's what it's called. They call it awakening. I call it remembering. We are remembering our identity as divine beings. And I feel this tapping in me, this longing, and I would ignore it, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do these Sunday services. I didn't want to become a reverend. A lot of things I didn't want to do, but the calling is there, and it's ticking you. It's ticking, ticking. Hello, hello, hello. Wake up, remember, remember. And until we're like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then, you know, the process, because we're human beings and we're so impatient, the process of it feels like it's so long until we are in the future, because there's really no time or space. It's only here and the now, and everything's happening right now. But when we are in that space, we're going to be like, wow, you know, all this from that tapping, from the purpose that we're meant to be. And so Joshua says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. And so the longing that's within you is that of God that's expressing through you. And you have that purpose. And so I invite you to go inward every time that you feel the tapping, every time you feel lost, that you seek and you search within your own being so you know what is that you must do for your own purpose. Because if God made you in his image, if God created you in its image, then you have a divine purpose here on earth. And so Krishna in the Upanishad, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but Krishna said, listen to the way which is called the eternal. And then Buddha said in the Sutra of 42 sections, he says, listen carefully and faithfully to the way, for it is mighty. Listen carefully and faithfully to the way, for it is mighty. So your path and your purpose is mighty, because God wouldn't make anything that's less mighty and eternal and beautiful like you. Each one of us are individually expressing God differently. We all have a nose, we all have mouths, we all have teeth, we all have eyes, we all have all this. I mean, even animals have everything we have. Maybe they have more or less, you know, insects, but everyone is expressing that divinity of what God is. And so in Matthew, we come back to Matthew when Jesus said, Joshua, ask and it will be given to you. And he also says, for everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it is opened. And who is the man among you whose son will ask for him for bread and will hand him a stone? And if he will ask for him for a fish, will he hand him a snake? If therefore you who are evil know to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? And so, doesn't matter where you're at. Everyone is in our own journey. Everyone, quote, quote, if we want to call them evil, which it's not a word that I like to use. It's just that they're separated from the truth of God. They're separating themselves from that divinity of what source is. They're just at the moment separated. But we all are leading towards alignment, all of us. We're all searching for that divinity of source. We're all searching for love. So no matter if it's this lifetime or next lifetime, we're all going to reach going back to our creative essence, that divinity of what God is, going back to source. And so Ernest Holmes says in the Science of Mind book, we must seek to realize the spiritual universe, regardless of any condition which appears, if we would embody the greatest good. If the spiritual universe were not perfect, it could not exist for a single moment. The truth is indivisible and whole. God is complete and perfect. God is complete and perfect. So if God is complete and perfect, then its creation is complete and perfect. A perfect cause must produce a perfect effect. Disregarding all evidence to the contrary, the student of truth will maintain that he lives in a perfect universe and among people potentially perfect. He will regulate his thinking to meet this necessity and will refuse to believe in its opposite. At first, he may be influenced by conditions, and he may appear to be weak, but as time goes on, he will prove to himself that his position is a correct one, for that which appears imperfect will begin to slip from his existence. To daily meditate on the perfect life and to the daily embody to the great ideal, it is the royal road to freedom, to that peace which passes understanding, and its happiness to the soul of man. And so, even though the world may seem as is going crazy, and even though we may be surrounded by individuals that are separated from source, they are in a lack mentality, we know the truth about our being is that we flow with spirit. For we know that God is making everything perfect, for everything is perfect. Everything is flowing, and we come back to this truth over and over again until we start embodying this presence of source. And it's important that we don't spiritual bypass. Spiritual bypass means is when we see that everything is so perfect, and we ignore that there is chaos, that we practice discernment and non-judgment, which is that we see what's happening, but we do our best to stay in that divine expression of source, that we know that God is taking care of us, because God is, right? Think about your life. Every time you feel like something's going crazy and chaos is happening, what happens? Things start aligning in a different way. Things start shifting and changing. And so we stay in the truth of God. Even though appearances don't appear to be so, we stay focused and we seek the divine expression of God within. We go inward. Going inward is meditating on that presence of truth, on the presence of God, meditating on the universal life force, the divine energy that lives and moves through each one of us. That is the truth of our being. So I invite you to